Tallahassee may need a rebrand to Talent-Hassee. The Hall, Mike Norvell and company have been bringing in not just through the transfer portal, but also on the trail. It's caught our attention and the attention of the college football world. So let's talk more about it and welcome in senior writer for Noles247, Chris Nee. Chris is here on the show. And Chris, you're here because there's a lot to talk about with the additions over the weekend in particular. Let's start with Charles Lester and Manasse Itete. I mean, two massive adds to this class. How much of an impact can these wins have for Florida State? Is they still, they're still in play for some other big-time targets?
Well, there's no doubt they've found momentum in the high school recruiting ranks. They've recruited the portal extremely well in the time of Mike Norvell and Tallahassee, but we're now seeing that translate to the high school ranks. FSU currently has 20 commits. 10 of those came in July. A lot of work done in June translated to success in July. Those 10 commitments moved FSU to 20 total commitments, number 6 over in the class. Charles Lester, Venice High School defensive back. He was a long-time target for the Seminoles. They had him on campus 9 times in his recruitment. He's a vital piece. He's the highest ranked defensive player in FSU's class. FSU had to get him for a few reasons. First and foremost, they were going against Colorado, and we didn't want a Travis Hunter repeat of Dion beating out his alma mater for best defensive back in the country, arguably. So that was one reason. But another reason is kind of like you were just talking about with Brandon Huffman. When you get a signature, a big-time recruit, and Charles Lester is such, other guys take notice. And a guy like KJ Bolden is one who I think Charles Lester's commitment may influence his ultimate decision that's coming here in 5 days. And then with Itete, another guy that Brandon Huffman just spoke at length about, very talented West Coast guy. He was someone that FSU felt great about back in about April, May. They got him in for a visit during the spring, and they were the leader for a long time till that first weekend in June. Took an official visit to USC, kind of quickly changed his mind, decided to go to USC. Fast forward 2 months later, switches to FSU. Offensive tackle, long-term, good, high-level player, high-ceiling kid. A little bit of a project in the sense of he hasn't played a lot of American football, but you can watch the video and see he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the length, he's got tackle potential, and there's only so many of those in the world. From an FSU perspective, he's a top-ranked offensive line commitment in their class. They also have John Daniels from Pine Forest. They have Ty Hilton from Oviedo, Florida. They're going to try to add another couple pieces from the high school ranks on the offensive line. I think somebody like Jalen Todd, who was here this past weekend, is a kid that they just went green on as far as offering. I think he could join the class. And then Zandamela, who's currently committed to USC, is another kid who I think very likely could end up in FSU's class. They're going to keep pushing for him. He's another guy kind of like Itete. They loved him. They were in a great spot in the spring. He took an early official to USC, made it kind of interesting with him committing there. But they're going to play the long game with him and see if they can pull it off in the end. A name I did not hear you mention, but Chris, I got to ask. Jeremiah Smith. Seminole fans certainly not giving up on that dream. Neither is Mike Norvell and his staff. I mean, the 5-star Ohio State commit has taken quite a few visits to Tallahassee since his commitment to the Buckeyes. So how's the process of trying to pull off this massive flip going? They had him back here this past weekend for Seminole Showcase. It was another multi-day unofficial visit for him. He did something similar in June where he spent about 72 hours in Tallahassee. The best thing FSU has done here, beyond just keep buying lottery tickets in the sense of keep getting him on campus, keep making an impression, is that they haven't used their official with him. And I spoke to him after his visit here this past week. He said that his official will probably be either the Miami game or around December. It kind of depends on when his team's playing for a state title because they're a favorite in the state to play for a state title. But he wholeheartedly intends to get back to FSU. And he did tell me that if he didn't take his official for the Miami game, he would probably likely come for an unofficial. So the potential of at least 2 more visits to Tallahassee exists. Florida, Georgia, a few others are in there trying to flip him from Ohio State. I think FSU's done a phenomenal job of just laying it out, telling him we're going to have a great offense here in Tallahassee. A guy like Johnny Wilson's really good. You can play a role similar to him. He's obviously probably going to the NFL next year. Same for Keon Coleman. I think the biggest thing with Jeremiah is the connection he has with head coach Mike Norvell. He really, really likes the guy. And Mike Norvell is a guy who a lot of recruits cite as a major reason why they end up in Tallahassee. And Jeremiah Smith is one who he regularly cites him as the reason he keeps returning to Tallahassee. Got to be a tough battle. Kid likes Brian Hartline and Ohio State a heck of a lot. But you got to keep putting yourself in position. FSU's done a phenomenal job of doing just that. Yeah, you never want to put yourself in a battle between Ohio State for a wide receiver, but certainly they are putting themselves in a great position to potentially land that flip. Let's talk about another 5-star they're in play for who actually is available, and that's the safety. You mentioned him, KJ Bolden. So where do the Noles stand with the top safety in the 2024 class? Well, we're 5 days out from that big announcement. The best way I can put it is FSU has had a lot of confidence for, I don't know, about 6 weeks now, middle of June when he took an unofficial visit here for a few days. They felt they did a really, really good job at that time, and they felt like that has persisted. I think from a national viewpoint, people are just catching up to that. We've heard a lot more FSU talk here nationally in the last week to 2 weeks. Auburn obviously took a really big shot this past weekend, getting them there for their big weekend. They had a lot of success there, 5-star flipping type of stuff going on. That can sometimes create momentum, and obviously that's a short jaunt from KJ Bolden's home. So I'm not going to dismiss Auburn. Georgia's been in there from the beginning, and Ohio State has family ties, and he's been there and he likes it. But FSU has a lot of confidence that they can pull that off, and I'm not dismissive of that belief. They wholeheartedly think going into the fifth that they've got a phenomenal chance of landing KJ Bolden and him being the guy that's kind of the capper in this class, where they've done a really good job of recruiting the high school ranks and killing off the narrative that they couldn't effectively do that.
It's going well so far. One more prospect to hit on, in-state 4-star cornerback Jamari Howard. He came in for an unofficial a few days ago. He has taken officials to Rutgers and Michigan State. He was once a Sparty commit. So what's the latest with Jamari Howard?
I feel like it's a 3-team race. Michigan State, who you brought up, still in it. Florida, who he almost went to see this past weekend but decided against doing, but he's been there pretty frequently and regularly. And then Florida State. Thing with Jamari Howard, all indications we've gotten is he's not really in a rush to decide. South Florida kids tend to make an early decision, then a late decision. I think FSU's comfortable playing for that late decision, not being in a rush with him. Kind of like I mentioned with Jeremiah Smith, where they're going to try to get him in later in the process. I expect Jamari Howard to be an in-season or right after the season official visitor for Florida State. They do feel like they've done a really good job positioning themselves. He likes FSU a lot. Linebackers coach Randy Shannon, who has a lot of ties to that area, has been kind of a primary recruiter for him. He's also built a relationship with Patrick Surtain since he arrived into town, and that's played a big role with him. They're definitely in the mix. Obviously, we've talked about Charles Lester, the potential of adding KJ Bolden. You're showing a guy like Red Morgan, Rodarius Morgan, who's already in the class. They're building a pretty good defensive back group. I think Jamari Howard's a guy who's going to have a spot in that group regardless of who jumps in beforehand. But they're going to play a little bit of a long game with him. I would be surprised if we get a decision from Jamari Howard before late in the fall.
We're about to talk a lot of realignment in our next segment on the show, but while I've got you here, you actually noted on Noles247 that Florida State is, quote, actively looking to get out of the ACC. Chris, how does that happen?
Well, it's not earth-shattering news. They've had wandering eyes for a long time. The ACC, obviously, well-documented grant of rights 2036, the financial gaps that are going to exist between ACC and Big Ten teams, ACC and SEC teams, and those gaps are only going to widen here as the years pass. With FSU, they've always kind of investigated how they could go about doing it, especially since AD Michael Alford came into the building. He spoke back in February at a Board of Trustees meeting about the gaps and the issues, pointing to the financials. He reiterated his points at the May ACC spring meetings, where he was very just straightforward and somewhat aggressive with other ADs of laying it out there and letting them know how he felt and where it stood. FSU has pushed for unequal revenue sharing. The league has clearly stated they have no interest in doing that to this point in time. Jim Phillips spoke last Tuesday at ACC kickoff in Charlotte, the annual football event. Kind of seemed comfortable with the ACC being third best, which is sort of where they stand right now, but the landscape's changing. We're about to hear about Pac-12 network, their new plans, and Big 12's obviously being very aggressive with adding teams. FSU, the ACC, it's not a marriage that's going to last. FSU wants out. It's just a matter of will it be now, will it be later. Something I documented when I wrote about that is the August 15th deadline that you're seeing there. Something we learned way back when Maryland did this, when Maryland left the league, is you have to notify the league by August 15th, the conference and its member institutions, by August 15th that you intend to leave. And that basically opens the window for you to depart the next June. If you don't do it, you're basically locked into at least the following June when you do notify. So it's basically a 10-month wait or a 22-month wait. FSU is as close as they've ever been the time I've covered them of sticking their nose out there and kind of opening the hatch and abandoning the submarine and getting out of the ACC. Now, the interesting thing to see here in the next 2 weeks, and I think obviously there's going to be a good bit of news just nationally with realignment still, is does FSU go forward and do it? Do they do it by themselves? Do they do it in unison with somebody like Clemson, who obviously holds similar power to FSU within the ACC? And if they do it, who's their dancing partner? Where are they going to end up landing? I've long thought the Big Ten would be the more likely of the two, of Big Ten or SEC, but I'm not locked into the belief that that's the only option. I think they do have options, but I obviously don't think they're going to do it if they don't have a good idea of where they are going to land.
Very interesting stuff. Chris, thank you so much for breaking it all down. Let's go ahead on his way out. Thank you, Chris. Hit that thumbs up button. Say you like the segment, you like the show. It makes us feel very nice. Also, go to this awesome website, Noles247.com. This is clearly just the beginning for a very exciting cycle for Mike Norvell and company. So check it out for Seminoles recruiting and, as he mentioned, potential realignment news.